Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome
Welcome.
to the Unhinged Bookcast, a podcast hosted by Jess and LJ, who love all things fantasy books. I'm LJ.
And I'm Jess, and we are happy to have you joining us.
Whether we're deep diving into thoughts and theories or just riding the vibes, we love discussing our current reads with each other and now with all of you.
Today we're talking about chapters 17 through the end of Spark of the Everflame, book 1 of the Kindred Curse series by Penn Cole.
We did it!
Yay, we
Yay!
finished it! Finally! This is our part 2 read and discussion episode. We will be continuing the entire series over the next few episodes. After that, we will be jumping into another series. Neither of us have read this series yet, so our thoughts and reaction are based only on the first book of the series. So if you are also reading this book, note that if you have not read the entire book, there will be spoilers.
So if you don't know why I'm screaming, I freaking called it from chapter 1. Pause and come back when you finish the book.
Also, these are adult fantasy books, so this is your content warning for adult language, as well as possible discussion of spicy and violent scenes from the book that may not be suitable for those little ears around you.
Spicy scenes, war, and gore don't bother us, but if they bother you, we will do our best to remind you to cover those sensitive ears beforehand. I'm pumped, so let's get into it.
We break our discussion down into different categories. Those categories are characters, world building, history and lore, clues and foreshadowing, honorable mentions, and then lastly, our personal thoughts and theories.
Also, since we have finished this book, we will be rating the book at the end, as well as our counters for cries, growling, jaw ticking, and maybe now another one.
Yes. Jumping into characters. So we'll talk about who is still here from the beginning of the book. What kind of growth, if any, did we see from the characters that we met previously? We'll talk about if there's any new characters and what we know about them as well.
Miss Diem Bellator, and she prefers pants, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Confirmed in this set of chapters that she is 20 years old. We see more of her feisty side and a lot more of that fight happy voice inside of her. You can see it all bubbling up more and more until the very end. At the end of the book, she's definitely in a different place than when we started. She's confused and in denial about what's inside her and who she really is, but she seems to be holding on to the fact that she doesn't wish to hurt people, but more or less save mortals and ascended. I'm so happy that as she ends this book, she wants to be in that middle ground. Before the very end, she knows that both Descended and Guardians are in the wrong. She sees the shitty side of Henry.
Yeah, don't get me started on Henry. I mean, I'll get started here in a second, but there's so many red flags. He's, uh,
He is a giant red flag. He is the
hmm
definition of red flag. But also Diem is seeing more of Luther, his other side, a very lovey-dovey side. So, Jess, you want to talk about that relationship and Luther since you're like the love master here and you like
The
that stuff?
love master. I don't know about the love master, but yes, I would be happy to talk about Luther. So we'll go into Luther. He's still here. There's obviously a very strong pull between Luther and Diem. They seem to be able to sense each other. And I think we'll talk a little more about that later, so I'm not going to go too deep into it yet, but that's my theory is that they can sense each other. They're drawn to each other. I think he becomes a lot more mysterious and cryptic in the second half of the book, at least to her. He does end up like opening up to Diem about his past with his uncle, who is the king, the current king, and his father. He also speaks on how his uncle ended up being more of a father figure to him as he grew, but he also acts like there's some hurt there and that there's more of the story than we're getting at the time. We'll probably figure out later. He
Yeah.
obviously cares about Diem, and he also tries to get her to see her own magic. They, of course, share a couple very nice, I'm not complaining, but very nice intimate moments. I don't
I
know
bet
if
you.
they thought
Yep.
they were nice. I don't know if Leslie thought they were nice, but I was enjoying it.
I was ready to move on, but anyway.
I mean, we've got the whole frisking situation with the guards, the hand touching when they're
Yep.
talking over the king, the heartwarming scene in the king's chambers where he's opening up about his past, and then that final
Oh, how
scene between the two of
cute.
them in the hallway where they finally kiss and feel each other up a little bit.
Just a little bit,
Finally,
though.
like
Just a little bit. Keep it
slow
PG
burn.
13.
Love and hate slow burn romance. We also do find out that he is the captain of the guard. They just kind
Yes.
of threw that detail in there real quick. And
Yeah, really quick.
yeah, so, but he's captain of the guard. And then the last thing I'll note about him is that he does mention, there's a mention in chapter 27. So when DM is
Oh,
in and out of consciousness, and he's speaking to his cousin's helping him with her, and he says something like, I think she is blank, and then DM lose consciousness and doesn't hear the rest of what he's gonna say.
oh my
So,
goodness. This part drove me absolutely
like,
insane. I was
what
like,
is
wake
she?
up, woman. I've got questions. That this is plot points here. I need all
Hmm.
of them. And she's just over here like, oh, wake up so you guys can kiss.
Okay, so we'll move on to the opposite of Luther, which would be Henry. Um,
Oh,
Not a fan at
no.
all. Unfortunately, he's still here. And in my
Okay.
opinion, he has gotten progressively worse
Oh,
throughout the
yeah.
second half. Like, he just becomes more and more like misguided, possessive, total douche, like
Douche.
with
Yes,
every chapter.
100%.
And then, of course, he asks her to marry him again. Like, ew, yuck.
Ew. Yuck.
Not into that.
Yeah.
We learn that he's not above potentially like risking potentially innocent lives. As
No.
long as they're descended lives, it's not a big deal to him. Her and Henry get into an argument over the morality and ethics of the Tree Club and Descended.
Yep.
Henry says, quote, "We're trying to save our entire race. Don't you think that's worth making a few compromises along the way?" This is what's going to be Henry's undoing. At some
Yeah.
point, you have to have a line that you won't cross. And Henry seems to be willing to cross just about any line to complete the mission as long, well, and is like he's losing his humanity because of this
Oh, yeah.
fact. Like he doesn't care who he's killing as long, especially if it's a descendant, as long as it's getting him to his end goal.
Yep. My favorite, Soiree. I was so happy we learned more about Saray in this section, the Gryvern from the palace. Luther tells us that she has a little perch outside of the king's bedroom. I was like, yes, it's like a little dog bed, but for this Gryvern dragon
Yeah.
flying thing. I love it. Okay. And then we also find out that she's mostly docile, doesn't even participate in the practicing because she can read intentions.
That was cool to learn.
That was super cool. So I'm assuming that's why Dee felt like Suri was reading her when she was walking in and out of the palace those couple of times.
Hmm.
Um, and then we also find out that she will be passed along with the crown, obviously, when the king dies. I've got to say, I was super stoked when Dee became queen because in the end, that definitely solidified that we're going to get more Saray in the following books, and I can't wait.
Yes. Yes. I love that character.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if like she can talk to her in the next book, and I hope so.
I have my theories about that too.
Do you? Okay,
I
cool. I can't wait
do.
to hear them. All right. And then we have Commander Dad, Andre, and he's got secrets. We learned that Commander led battalions of human and descended. He is assumed to be a sympathetic to the descended since he was apparently responsible for the capture and killing of many rebel members during his time in service. All of this is according to Henry in chapters 19, so we don't really know how much is correct or not correct, but
All right, Mama Arlie. She is
yay!
alive.
I'm so excited.
So, yeah, I was waiting the whole book to hear more about her. We're getting towards the last chapter, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're not gonna hear any more
Yeah,
about her.
she was just gonna be gone or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, there's the epilogue, and it's like a whole chapter from her POV.
I
So at the end of episode one, I had a theory that maybe she'd been slowly poisoning the king or something along those lines.
yes.
Probably since before she had left 6 months ago. But there is room to wonder if she's killing him from wherever she is somehow.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Yeah.
But for now, we also know that she has been quote unquote here, wherever this here
There
is,
is.
before.
Yep.
And that the last time she was here, She had a hard time keeping track of time, so that the days and weeks just kind of melded together. Yeah, we'll get more into all of that. We're definitely deep diving into all of that tonight.
Yes. All right. So just to mention, we've got Teller. He hasn't really got much page time into the last like what 2 chapters, and it's not much. But he does come after Dee when she leaves the house. So I would say he's a good little brother.
Yeah. And then we have Lily.
Yep.
She also still here. She like goes up to DM. I believe DM's in Lumnos City at this time. She goes up to DM and basically tells her that Luther has a crush on her, not exactly in those words. He really likes her, that he's a good guy, that she should kind of give him a chance. Tells her that he likes her because she's mean to him and that she doesn't kiss his ass, basically,
Uh-huh.
because again, that's not Lily's words, but most people just want something from him, so everyone's super nice to him, but DM's mean to him, so he kind of liked that. And Lily
Yep.
felt like she needed to make sure DM knew that. And then Lily also admits her own growing affections for Teller and then invites DM and her family to the palace for dinner.
Yep.
DM declines that invite and then instead tells Lily that her and Luther are welcome at their own home for dinner anytime. So,
Without Luther.
was it without Luther?
Yes.
Okay,
Because
I got that part
yes,
wrong.
that's why she doesn't want to go to the palace because she doesn't want to be with
Yes, you're
Luther.
right. I was thinking that when
Yeah.
I was thinking about this, like,
So
why
like
does she
more
not want to go to the palace? You are
right.
right.
So more or less she's gonna supervise her little brother's dates.
That makes more sense.
Yep.
All right, then we have Breck.
Still
Basically,
here.
he's still here and we still don't like him, right? Is
Nope.
there anything else to say about Breck?
Nope, nada.
Okay, cool.
And then we have Mora still here, pretty much the same person as far as I could tell. Anything new with her, Jess?
No,
Nope, nada.
I can't say. I have to say I might be a little suspicious of her. I can't tell you why. I just am. But we really don't learn anything new about her.
Next, we have King Uther. He's not new, but in this chapter section, we get a little more background from Luther. Uther became more of a father figure to him than his own father, which caused some issues. So I am also wondering what the heck happened to Luther's dad. Where is he?
That's a good point because we really don't know anything about that. He just briefly mentions
Yeah.
that Ulthar was his father figure, but he never tells us anything else. So,
Yep.
all right, then we have our new characters. So we have Aram Bennett. He's a high profile descended arms dealer and head of the Bennett house.
Next, we have Evany, and that is Aram's daughter who falls ill due to some death shade flowers given to her by an unknown woman with brown eyes that we later find out is one of the guardians.
Then we have Loris, which is Aram's son and Evany's older brother. And we don't know a whole lot about him. He's older than her, goes to the descended school, has a tiny bit of magic, but other than that, that's all we know about Loris. Then we have Vance, quote unquote, the
The
father
father.
of the Guardians. DM recognizes him, but she's not sure where from. Kind of just brushes it off and
Yep.
then comes back to her again that she saw him at one point looking through the window of the healer's center, like staring at her. She had thought maybe he was a patient, and that's why she recognized him, but
Yeah.
realized later that he never was a patient. She remembers him standing outside the healing center staring at her.
But
And
didn't,
that's why.
in like a later thought, didn't she think she remembered him standing outside the healing center talking to her mom?
Yes. You're
Okay.
right.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I do believe you're right on that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we are going to have what I'm going to call the henchmen. So Brother Brant and Brother Francis, Vance's second and third.
I think of here I go with the Disney references. Tangled, the two
Yes, that's exactly who I
twin
thought that are going
dudes,
after Flynn Rider.
whatever their names are.
Yes.
That is how I imagine these two.
The
Brother Brant
bandits or
and
whatever
Brother
they are.
Francis.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I love
And then
it.
we have Sister Lana. Lana or Lana? What do we
I'd
think?
say Lana.
Lana. Okay. Sister
Yeah.
Lana. And she's the other healer that went with Diem and Mora to the palace when those kids got hurt in the beginning.
Yep.
And then she's also a guardian member.
Mm-hmm.
Diem finds out that she's a guardian member. Uh, okay, but I'm sorry, this is like so cultish. I think it makes me laugh
Yes.
because Henry specifically tells her, "Don't worry, we're not a cult or anything." But then they start calling each other brother and sister and father, and I'm like, nope, that is definitely a cult.
Like next
Definitely a
they're gonna be
cult.
like, we're gonna bring who's bringing the Kool-Aid next
Right.
time.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I
Okay.
don't like it.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention this one. This is the female soldier. This was before she's going into the burning building, right?
Right.
And she's got blue hair, cut off short like a knife, part of the royal guard of some sort. And like I said, she's telling Diem how to get through the fiery building, not like a hey, you can't do that, but this is how to do it. She's and especially because he's head or Luther is head of the royal guard,
Yeah.
and she is apparently maybe his like second, third, whatever, because there's that other
Maybe.
guy that was there too. She's definitely gonna come back. I can't.
I think you're right. There was something
Yeah.
about her that stood out to me too. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I was like, yeah, she's coming back.
Yeah, she'll be back at some point too.
Then we have Eleanor, which is Luther's
Yep.
cousin. We don't know a whole lot about her, but she's the one that he's talking to at the end there when Diem gets hurt, and she's the one that helps him change Diem while she's blacked out
Yeah,
into
because
pants,
pants,
not a
damn it.
dress. Pants, damn it.
So next up we have our world building section. We discussed in detail what we know about the setting in episode 1. So today we'll just be talking about any new developments or any new pieces or info we may have learned regarding the current setting of where we're at the end of this book.
Okay, Lumnos City. This is where the Descended live. The mortals live in Mortal City. Descended live in Lumnos City. Mortals
Yeah.
are allowed to live here. However, no one could ever afford to. So we get brief mentions of it in the first half of the book, but Diem actually ends up spending a little bit of time here in Lumnos City in the second half, um, when she's healing the little girl, Aram's daughter, and then when she goes to help with the explosion slash fire, um,
Yeah.
that all happens.
Yeah.
So she describes it as bright, clean, and perfect and beautiful. She says it's almost like too perfect, which I have some actual like little thoughts on that, that I'll get
Okay.
to, I think, in like honorable mentions later. But
Okay, cool. The entire last chapter or the epilogue, we get a huge info dump on what we're assuming is the Kindred Island. We get a few mentions of the Godstone between whatever it is, the wall or building that she's writing on to tally her days, or the dagger that's made out of Godstone that she keeps carrying around with her.
mm,
She moved at night so no one could see her from across the sea. Just another big clue that this is where that scene is taking place, is on that island. There are small animals here that she has been able to hunt, but we aren't sure what other kind of life is at this location. There is a black door with a stairwell down into the darkness with a pool of dried blood. And we
hmm
know she has killed someone down there and frequents the darkened stairwell to check that the he
hmm
is dead. Um, we also get to see this temple or whatever it is that she walks up to after she goes and checks on this guy, right? There's 9 flames around the sides, which I'm assuming represents the 9 realms of the continent. And in the
Yeah.
center of the temple is a podium with a cauldron on top that has blue flames coming from it. The podium also has an illuminated sun, and like it's a sun and then there's a crescent moon inside of it. Um, and that's on the podium. And then next to it is another podium with a rock on top that is described as glossy and smoky.
Hmm.
And this rock also burns her when she accidentally touches it. So it's either very hot or my thought was very cold.
hmm
I don't know. We'll see. We have more of this chapter in later sections, but hopefully that builds the picture better for this Temple Island or the Kindred Temple Island.
Yeah, it just listening to you talk about it like that helped me to see it better.
Okay.
Honestly. Yeah, because I'm not very good at like being creative with these things and imagining these things. Is why I'm constantly looking up fan art so I can have somebody else imagine it for me and I can just be like, oh, that's what this looks like. So I kind of maybe blew over this part. But
Yeah.
when you
Well,
explained it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that I can see that. That makes sense.
see, there
I can
was
see
such
that.
an info dump there that I read it 4 times. I read this chapter 4 times
Wow.
and I listened to it on Audible probably 3 times, if not more than that.
Wow. You are way better than me because
Because
I
I was
probably
like,
skimmed it. I was like,
whoa,
I'm at the end
so
of the
much is
book.
going on. So much is going on. And I was like, I've got to figure out what's going on here. There's so much all of a sudden.
There was a lot there at the end.
Uh-huh.
I think I read it one time really quickly. So that's probably why I
And then she was
missed a
just like,
lot of those
ah.
details.
Oh, cool. What we got next?
All right, next up we have history class. So, did we learn anything new in the second half of the book? New from what we learned in the first half. So we get a brief little bleep of a magic history slash knowledge from Loris, which is Aram's son. He says, quote, "At school they said light and shadow work the same, but my magic tutor has both, and she says the shadows are harder to convince into doing what you want them to do. She said that the light wants to please its wielder, but the shadows only want to fight." Okay, so sidebar here, Luther. Immediately I start thinking of Luther when he said this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he has both types of magic, but he chooses to use this shadow magic more. At least it's what we've seen so far. Which apparently is the harder magic to use, and it just wants to fight you all the time
Yeah.
when you use it. So I don't know what it means or anything, but that's where my thoughts went as soon as we've learned that about this.
In chapter 30, Henry is telling us about what Igneos and Sophos did, or possibly still does, to the mortals. In
Hmm.
Ignos, they sent all the mortals to scorch in the desert when they decided to close their borders to them.
And then in Sophos, they keep the mortals to experiment on, possibly.
Yeah.
But we don't know if this is true or not. It's just what, again, what Henry's telling her,
Yep.
which I have a hard time believing anything that comes out of Henry's mouth, but it's a little sus to me, a little
It,
suspect,
it is a
you
little
know?
sus. It's interesting because that's where Teller is supposed to be going when he
Hmm.
finishes school.
It would make sense to, because I've always had the question, why would the Descended ever let a human into their school in the
Yep.
first place?
Yeah.
But it would kind of make sense if they let the Descended in, or the humans in to the
Oh, yeah.
Descended
The mortals.
school.
Yeah.
They do well enough to then be invited to Sophos, to a university, so that they can continue supplying humans for experimentation.
Yeah.
But they make it seem they sugarcoat it for the humans and make it seem like they're special and got to be in Descended school and all that. So it does kind of make sense.
All right. So I had told you we'll be back in and out of the epilogue all night. We know that Orly has been to this place before, 20 years ago to be exact. And when the guards came to pick her up last time, she had a newborn. Quote, she'd learned the last time how quickly the days could get away from her. A week could feel like a year, or a month could feel like a day. When the soldiers had arrived to take her home from this place 2 decades ago, if it weren't for the newborn in her arms, they could have easily convinced her she'd been gone for years. So it's safe to assume that Diem was born on the Kindred Island in the middle of the sea. And I have so many more thoughts, and I can't wait to get into them. Love
So
it.
next up we have clues and foreshadowing. Here is where we talk about all of the big and little things that we think could lead to more in the future of our characters and the story as a whole. Leslie, you go ahead and start. Is there anything that stood out to you for clues and foreshadowing?
Yes. So maybe this is something and maybe it's not, but now I'm on Tingle Watch and our watch list is growing.
Hmm.
Okay, but seriously, it's been mentioned enough that at this point I'm spiraling. The feelings of her fingers tingling when healing Lily and when they start tingling when the light comes into her hands right before the wolf is just kind of turned into ash. And
Mm-hmm.
then now, before she's going into the Guardians meeting, but it's not her hands that are tingling. She just feels tingling.
You're right. Actually, I think it's in chapter 18. Yeah, so right before she says she's in when it comes to joining the tree club,
Okay.
right? So in chapter
Yeah.
18, she says, quote, something tingled against my skin, a chill from the evening cold, perhaps, or my conscience warning me of the dangerous line I was about to cross.
Yes. Okay. 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 So hear me out. My shovel is out. I'm digging
Of
my
course
hole.
it is.
I am digging my hole. And yes. Okay. I also just finished an incomplete series where I was watching the tingles a character felt. I was convinced it had to do with the MMC, and I was right. I was right.
Okay, no more spoilers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But hold on, just hang in there with me.
Okay.
At the end of this book, and Luther asks if she feels his magic because he feels hers. Then back up even more. Okay, we're backing up more. And they're in the king's room, and he asks her if she's part of the guardians and that he knows about the guardians. Okay. What if,
Okay.
stay with me, the tingles with Lily and the wolf were her feeling her magic.
Okay.
But what if right in this moment that you just quoted for us, outside of the guardians meeting, she was feeling his magic and he was somewhere in the shadows, just like watching
Oh.
this all go down. just
Oh.
saying just saying, tingle watch, bro, tingle watch.
Oh. I like that. I like that. I have a like a piggyback thought on that.
Okay.
I'll get to I think it's chapter 25. I'll get to that in the honorable mentions, but yes, I am with you on this rabbit hole you're
Uh-huh.
digging. I am with you.
Uh-huh. I'm telling you, he's
I like
there.
this. Mm-hmm.
He's there and he knows, and that's how he knows.
I also kind of like the idea of him lurking in the shadows. I don't know.
I bet
I
you
don't know
do.
why. Okay. Chapter 20. We are at the palace, and this is the first time she goes with Mora to check on the king, right? Am I correct on this?
Yes. Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
So the first time she goes with Mora to check on the king, and I believe this is also going to be Mora's last time, supposed to be Mora's last
Yes.
time
Supposed to be more
escorting
as last
her.
time. Yep.
So she's agreed to take on this mission for the tree club
Mm-hmm. The
because she's the
tree
only one that can
club.
get in and out. And she stashes her backpack somewhere in the palace as they're being escorted. She quickly just like throws it off into a
Yeah,
corridor
throws it
somewhere,
off into a corner.
a closet or something. And then she feigns to have forgotten it and runs out of the king's chambers. Luther's protesting, saying, you can't go. But she knows he's not going to follow her right away because he's not going to leave Mora unattended with the king because there would be nobody else with them. So her task from the tree club is to search the royal boat and to find
Yeah.
a stowaway space in it.
Yep.
So she's ends up being found by Luther. They end up pursuing her, and Luther finds her right before the guards do, and also before she can complete her mission. But then he says something about protecting her, and
Yes.
that if anyone else finds her, that he won't be able to protect her. So he gives her a chance. Then he
Yep.
says, quote, "Don't end up like your mother. She betrayed me and lost my trust. You should learn from her mistakes." So
But
chapter
what
tw
does that
I
mean?
know, what does that, yeah, what
What
does
does
that
that
mean? I
mean?
I, I kind of have a couple theories about that. So then we have in chapter 26, Diem's passed out in the burning armory next to the murdered bodies, and she's awoken by this voice inside of her yelling at her to fight.
Yeah.
She feels like she's instantly coated in ice and that the flames and the smoke don't bother her anymore.
Yep.
So she carries on now and she's able to find two trapped men that are alive. And then her strength comes out over and over where she's like, I shouldn't be able to do this. I shouldn't be able to lift this or bust through these
Yeah.
people or whatever. It's got to be her powers. This has to be something to do with her powers.
Oh
So
yeah,
her strength
100%.
comes out again as she hefts a log 5 times her size off of them. And then she figures out how to drag them to the entrance, and then Luther's able to get them all the way out. Then he goes in after her to get her out, and when their eyes meet, when he gets to her, it says, quote, "We both froze in place as something ancient, something profound passed between us. It was a primal force that transcended word and thought, a powerful as a crack of lightning, a child's first breath, the endless depths of the sea. It was not of this world, but entirely woven within it. It warmed my blood with a calming peace I'd never known, yet filled me with the terrible dread of a fate I could not avoid."
Mm.
And then she sees the same vision that she had in the tavern, only the difference is this time that she isn't alone in the vision. Luther is there with her.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yes.
Chapter 27, there's so much going on here. He's obviously carrying her. He takes her to the palace. She's going in and out of consciousness. I'm gonna leave it in there and I'm just gonna tell everybody I can't say that word, but conscience,
It's a hard one. It's okay.
because otherwise we're gonna be here all night. So she's going in and out of consciousness, and he has the cousin dress her. She likes pants, not dresses. Damn
Not
it. Make
dresses,
sure
damn
we
it.
know, not dresses. Damn it. That's our
Same,
new one.
girl, same.
Me too. I don't like pants either, but I'll
Nope.
take them over a dress any day.
Yes.
And then there's that little conversation where Luther says, I think she's, like we've talked about earlier, and then she blacks out.
She blacks out. Yep.
Okay. But what did he mean? Did he mean, I think she's descended? I think she's my mate? Does that even exist here? I kind of hope not. What do you
Ah,
think?
no. They better be mates. I love fated mates. I love fated mates. That was my first thought was fated mates. I did think descended, but I love fated mates. I hope that's what it is.
Did you really put like heart eyes and heart lovey faces in the notes?
You know what? This is my generation, you know? I can't portray my thought well enough with words. I have to use pictures. The emojis just say it all.
All right. Well, continuing, the inner voice is humming whenever they touch, which isn't tingling, but to me, that sounds more like an intense version of tingle. And we're
So
just going
much
to
more
say,
intimate.
uh, okay. So now I can't even say it because I'm giggling. Okay. So headphones for the little listening ears for a minute, because this is, I can already see where this is about to go. So I have a question. The feeling of humming, would it be like vibrating? Because humming is a sound, not a
Yeah.
feeling.
Okay.
Vibrating is a feeling. So if a
Okay.
tingle is like the beginning, wouldn't like a higher version of that be vibrating? So why did we say humming instead of like vibrating? Or is it just too dirty?
Because it's like so much more intimate. I could go so
Vibrating,
dirty with this. I'm not going
vibrating,
to, but I could.
vibrating is more into.
I like
Oh
vibrating.
man. We should get back at it, Jess.
All
What's your
right.
next part?
So she also keeps
Oh, wait, hold on.
mentioning,
All I'm saying is I'm counting that for two for Tingle Watch. That's a double tingle. Okay.
oh, definitely.
If we're humming so hard we're vibrating, then that's definitely a double tingle. Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
so
now we
many
can
fun words. All right.
okay, now we can get back to it.
So she also keeps mentioning, not just here, but in previous chapters as well, how whenever her and Luther touch, there's like this spark or a gentle energy that fills her, etc., etc. Also leaves me to wonder what else is going to fill her by the end of the series.
Oh my
Emojis,
goodness.
emojis.
Your emojis are killing me. I'm not even kidding. Okay. Okay, everybody get serious for a second. Get
Okay.
serious. Okay. There's a description of Luther's smell and how it smells like home.
Hmm.
Quick story time. Okay. We got a well loved couch for my parents a few months back. Okay. My
Mm-hmm.
dad always sat in the one spot on it. If I sit down on it, I smell my dad. Like my dad was
Hmm.
sitting right next to me. Okay.
Hmm.
And it even feels weird saying this, but that to me really is like the smell of home.
I think like you can't bottle the smell of home, but we
Yes.
all know what they're saying when they say that.
Yes. And so I love it. And he was actually at my house again today, and he sat in that same spot on my
Oh,
couch.
how
And now I
funny.
get to go sit right in that spot, and I get to smell my dad. I get to smell home again. So
I love that.
yeah.
That's a good description.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have the crown on her head at the end, the most
Yes.
obvious. Cliffhanger, foreshadowing, what's to come.
Oh yeah.
And I actually called this one, and
You
I'm very
did.
proud of myself. Yeah, I
You
don't
did. You
think
did.
I said it in the last episode, but I know I texted you about it.
Yes, I will testify to that. You definitely suspected it, and you texted me about it, whether we said anything about it last time or not.
Yeah, I think my husband thought I was crazy because I don't usually call things,
So were
but
you
I
just sitting there like,
called
I
it.
got it? And
And I'm
he's
like
like,
holding my
good for
Kindle
you.
reading. Yeah, and I'm like, yes, I was right. And he looks at me like, are you seriously yelling at your Kindle right now?
Yes.
I'm like, absolutely. I called something.
I,
I
I
don't do
was
that.
I was yelling through the entire epilogue. So it's fine. It's cool.
Okay, so that's what we have for clues and foreshadowing so
Yep.
far. Then we'll move on to our honorable mentions, and this is just kind of quotes and events from the chapter chunk that we read that we weren't really sure where to categorize them, but these things are things that stood out to us.
Yep.
So I had in chapter 17, Diem speaks of the perfection of Lumnos City and its inhabitants, in contrast to the imperfection of her own city.
Yeah.
She uses Henry and her mother as examples, and I'm actually just gonna pull my Kindle out here for a second. And
Okay.
so this kind of stood out for me. So, a quote from the book, she says, everything about Lumnos's capital thrived on excess. Though their physical features were as varied as the mortals, each of them had an otherworldly sense of perfection, a gentle blur to smooth away any flaws. Their faces were all impossibly symmetrical, their skin unblemished, hair shiny and bouncing. I could barely tear my eyes away from all the chiseled jaw lines and curling, mile-long lashes. But there was something about it that made me almost sad. I glanced at Henry from the corner of my eye. His nose was slightly bent thanks to a drunken bar fight, and myriad of scars coated his hands and forearms. When he caught my stare and flashed his unusual grin, one tooth was crooked, another chipped from a childhood fall. Still, my stomach fluttered. Henry was as handsome to me as any man in this city, not in spite of those traits, but because of them. Yuck. I kind
I,
of hate, like, I see where she's going with this. I can understand there's it's true. If
but
we were
it's
all perfect, what would perfect be? What would the standard be? You see people, you see things, and it is those imperfections that tend to remind you of stories, past traumas, past successes, whatnot. I just kind of hate that she uses Henry as the example
Henry as the example, right?
of
Okay, so
being so handsome.
I'm gonna take the side road on this. And it's not that the descended are, well, they are perfect, but because of that, because they heal quickly and that kind of thing. I think that's what she's trying to say here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that like she can see the beauty in the scars
Yeah. Yeah.
and the story in the scars.
Yeah.
And it does also make you think, and she speaks of this too in this chapter of Luther and why does he have the big scar that goes from like
Yes.
his eyebrow like all the way down his chest if they heal so quickly, and what is that? And I don't think we, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't learn what the scar was from on Luther, right?
No, we don't know yet. But
It's
it
got to
like
be something
almost
big though because they do heal
something
quickly and whatnot.
big, but it also kind of made me wonder, like at the end, and this is kind of just like totally going off of it, but at the end where he was saying something, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's um you're no more you're no more mortal than I am or something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
What if he's only like half descended or something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was just a thought on that. And that's
Hmm.
totally we kind of went off the rails here, but that's kind of what I was
That's
thinking.
okay. Yeah. That's a good thought. I like that.
Cool. So I've got chapter 20. Girl gives a thesis statement and I'm here for it. Quote, getting the royal family to accept me as my mother's replacement was the key to all of my plans. Protect Teller's place at the descended school, succeed on my mission with the Guardians, and find the truth of what happened to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
And then also in chapter 20, she is, this part made me laugh a little bit because she's searched by the guards when they arrive at the palace, when she goes with Mora for that first time to go check on the king.
Yep.
And she's searched by the guards, and she doesn't like how handsy they are with her, which
Right.
honestly didn't seem that handsy to me, honestly. In comparison, Luther's watching her and then he notices what's going on, so he agrees to take over the frisking, which then
Yeah,
turns
that's true.
quite intimate. And
Oh,
I
I'm
love
sure
the
you
I
picked
like
up on that.
I love romance and I love these things, but this part was like, okay, it made me giggle because there's breath holding, there's deep stares. She notes on like the warmth seeping from Luther's hands into her arms as he needs the flesh there in search of her weapons, etc., etc. Um, and like I said, she doesn't mind him like thumbing and caressing her inner thigh
I know. I
on
was like, what
his
the
knees,
heck?
no less,
Ow,
all from
ow.
this male that she supposedly hates. But
Right.
the palace guard's search bothered her, but she
Yep.
didn't mind Luther frisking her.
Yep. Oh, so this, now that you're talking about it, so he knows that that dagger is still in her boot, but he doesn't say anything.
Right.
Yep.
I also find it's funny that like I'm like, oh, the frisking and the this and the that, and you're like, and the knife.
I'm like, there's a
There's
knife
a
in her
knife.
boot. All
So
right.
chapter 25 then. So she arrives to help uh and she finds like so when the people were all the explosion happened and everything and she goes to help. She gets there and she finds this magical barrier set up by the royal guard. And then she sees Luther, but then she mentions how she feels him before she actually knows it's him. So then it says, quote, as if he'd heard my thoughts, his head snapped in my direction. Even tucked as I was among a sea of onlookers, his glowing blue eyes found mine in an instant. So I have this little baby theory that he can hear her thoughts and read her. I don't have solid proof of this yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm right. I love mind speak. I love mind
Okay.
speak. That is super cool to me.
I need it like flat out in front of me, like, hey, guess what? I'm speaking into your mind right now. Otherwise, I'm so like, what the hell is going on right now? But yeah, I must have grazed past that one because I don't remember that part happening, I guess, but that is good. And I do like that. So going back to like my Tingle watch and stuff like that about how she feels his magic or whatever. And I'm assuming this is kind of like yours, is that they can kind of read each other's thoughts or whatever.
Yeah. I don't
So
think she can read his, but she can definitely sense him. And I just have this, I just really, I hope I'm right. I hope he can actually read her.
see, we're on the same page, just not the same paragraph.
Yeah,
And that's
there you
cool.
go. There you go. Then at the end of chapter 25, so she volunteers to go in and search for any missing people stuck within the armory. She finds four guards murdered, not burned to death, but like I think their throats were slit, right? I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what that
think at least
was.
one of them was. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were not actually burned to death. They were killed before the explosion happened.
Yep.
She has like this self-pity moment where she realizes that she's at fault
Yeah.
because she gave the information to the Tree Club about Aram and his arms dealing business and all that.
Yeah.
And then she kind of gets this thought again that she doesn't want to be a part of a group that kills innocent people. And then
Yeah.
she curls up on the floor, ready to just give up and let the flames take her. So
Yeah.
that was definitely a character building moment for her there.
Chapter 31. You know how I was talking about that thesis statement? Well, now her plan has gone
Mm-hmm.
to shit. Okay. The quote, I felt the calling from the deepest pits of my soul that this was a war and I was meant to fight, a blood debt I was born to repay, but I refused to stoop to the guardian's level to do it. I'd find my own way to bring justice to a Marian, even if I had to do it alone. And
Mm-hmm.
now we have a new thesis statement from our girl. And I love a good thesis statement from our main characters.
I love that because I don't read. I've honestly, until you said that, I've never read those as like thesis statements, but I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna do it.
I actually have one more to add here that I did not add into our notes. In the very beginning, when we were talking about characters, when we were talking about orally,
Yeah.
and we said we'd get back to it. How, did we think she killed, was poisoning the king or not? And we had doubts. Thought about it, but had
Yeah.
doubts. Okay, so I'm just gonna read a quote here from the epilogue, from Orly's epilogue. She says, when she left, the king's condition was already so weak, his mind murky, and his power faded to embers. She had prepared both mentally and in a more practical sense to wait out the final throes of his death in solitude for a few weeks, perhaps a month or two at most. She hadn't counted on the king holding out for the better part of a year. As it often did these days, uncertainty nipped at her heels. What if the king made a full recovery? What if she had misread the signs and he had only been struck by some temporary illness? That kind of makes me think maybe no, that she wasn't poisoning him, but she could see the signs that he was going to die for sure soon.
Yeah, for sure, at least that. But it doesn't really confirm or deny that she was poisoning him. Oh, we do have one more honorable mentions. And I found this in the acknowledgments because I am kind of a weirdo and I read those as well. So,
Yeah, I do
quote,
too.
to anyone else reading this, keep shining, little flame. There's no limit to how bright you can burn.
Yeah, I saw that too. And
Yeah,
I
I thought that
read
was
like all
cute.
the way to the end.
Yep, I always read all the way through unless it's like a preview for the next book.
Same. I don't read those.
I don't read those. I just go to the next book and read it.
But I like that. And I think that could almost go in the foreshadowing, I think.
Maybe. As always, sometimes we have questions for each other. And so this is where we put it before our thoughts and theories. So my question is, who are the three people that know mom or Orly is alive? And which two knew where she is?
Hmm. I've been thinking a lot about this because like it says it's taken her 20 years to find a way back into this place. When would the next opportunity arise? She'd only been able to trust three people with her plan and only two with her location. So,
Yeah.
I think Luther knows because I agree with you. I think that he took her
Yeah. Took her out
wherever
on
she
the
is
boat.
to
Yeah.
the yes. So, I think Luther knows and Luther knows where she is and knows that she's alive.
Okay.
I think Dad knows too. Dad, he's made too many little comments in the book
Yeah.
that seem to make it seem like he knows that she's alive.
Yeah.
And the
I
only other
think
person that I think, so those are the two that I think know that she's alive. The only person that I think knows that she's where she is.
I think it's two people know where she is, but all three know she's alive. I
Okay.
thought.
Okay, so you're right. So Luther and Dad know where she is.
Okay.
I think Mora knows she's alive but doesn't know where she is.
I'm the same way. That's exactly what I think.
Okay.
Okay. So where is she then?
Oh, definitely Kindred Island. I think
Oh,
you hit the nail on the head with that one.
I did. I called that, and I want to say that was like in like chapter 2 or 3. I think I texted you, and I was like, "She's on the
Yes,
Kinder
you
Island.
did.
That's where she is." And I was so excited about it.
I mean, because they talk about the temple and they talk about the Godstone, which can only be made by the kindred. So that's
Yep,
got to be the only place she is.
that's got to be the only place she is.
Okay, so my question to you is who is the them in the epilogue? Because Orly says, quote, it had taken her 20 years to find a way back into this place. When would the next opportunity arise for them?
I'm not sure, but I kind of think it's the Guardians,
I kind of
but
think
I'm
so
not
too.
sure. I'm not sure. But
Unless she's got like her own little,
unless there's a whole nother thing. But hold on.
okay.
Hold on. And this is going into my thoughts and theories.
Oh boy, here we go, guys.
And this is literally coming to me as a okay. Who is them? It says Orly has taken her 20 years to find a way back into this place. When would be the next opportunity? Wait, when would the next opportunity arise for them?
Hmm.
The Kindred.
Oh. Oh.
Bomb dropped. Who do
Oh.
you think it is?
Well,
You
now I
said the
like your
Guardians.
theory. Here we go. Leslie digs the hole. Jessica says, "Yep, let's go."
She's got the flashlight and I'm digging. Okay.
I like that because Diem is crowned at the end. Only the most powerful.
Wait until you hear my thoughts and theories.
Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready. Let's carry on so I
Okay.
can get
Yes.
to your thoughts and theories.
I've got more questions. I've got more questions.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think is at the bottom of the staircase that mom was afraid of?
Girl, I don't know.
You don't
This is where
know?
I'm like, my thoughts are so all over the place. I'm like, I'm gonna give up on my thoughts and just read and figure it out as we go because I truly am clueless. It's obviously something she's terrified of,
Yeah.
something she killed, right?
Yeah. And it's a he. And we know
It's
it's
a
a he.
he.
And we know it's
I don't know.
he.
What do you think? Let me hear what your thoughts are on that one.
Oh, I guarantee you this one is like way off the wall. But this one was 100% off the wall. But my first thought was like a dragon
Oh.
or like some kind of beast of some sort. And then I like went down a spiral, and I'm pretty sure people can guess what book series I read before this, but like what if all the kindred were actually dragons or like a mix of mythical creatures, and they when they turned mortals or whatever for their mortal lovers, I don't know, like, but
Oh.
maybe the kindred are dragons and they're from a different place, right? Okay.
Oh.
Okay. And
Okay,
then
and so are you also in your rabbit hole thinking of maybe one of these dragon shifter kindred is Diem's father?
maybe I'm not there yet,
Okay.
but now there's a side hole. Anyway, so this might be totally I'm 90% sure this is like a wild out there theory. And I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna laugh and we're gonna like take this out in editing after we get so far in. But okay. So what do you think this is between Diem and Luther? Is it just love? Is it some kind of like mates thing? And honestly, I'm just curious because I have no thoughts on this.
At this point, no spoilers, but if this follows along the same lines of mates as other books that we've read, that line's a little murky for me
Okay.
because there's there's obviously like the pull, this gravity between the two people if they're mates, where they kind of hate each other, but they're drawn to each other. So is that love? I don't know. I don't I think they
Okay.
learn to love each other because at this point I can't say that they love each other. I want to, but I don't think they do yet. I think that they are drawn strongly to each other and they don't truly understand why yet. What do you think?
See, this is where you are like the romantic part of the romantasy, and I'm the fantasy,
Yes.
because I kind of meant like them feeling each other's powers, what that meant.
Oh,
But you know what? If you think they are in love with each other, you go for it. I'm just trying to figure out like why they can feel each other's magic and that kind of stuff. But you go for it. Love master Jess.
I think it's gonna end up in love for sure.
It's probably gonna, yeah, well, yeah,
For sure.
100%. If it
Right
doesn't,
now they're just drawn to each other. They're like magnets.
exactly.
And they
But
could be the
why?
magic,
What is in the middle?
but they're not in love yet, is my thought.
Okay. Well, that's obvious. I would hope so. Cause I mean, otherwise she just met him. You can't marry a man you just met.
Yeah, I do think of that a lot. I'm like, okay, you've known this guy for how many weeks? If we're being realistic here and think about the timeline, you don't actually love him yet.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get into thoughts and theories and called it moments.
All the moments. Okay.
Okay. Jess, you're up first.
All right, I'm going first tonight. So, first of all, I do think that the second half of this book was much better than the first half.
I think I'd
Like
agree to
the
that.
last 4 to 5 chapters, though, is where it's really at. So, first of all, I think, like we've said, like Aurelia is definitely on the Kindred Island. There's no way that she's not. I still think that she's possible descended, that mom could have also been using the flame root to suppress her own powers, and that could be why DM is so powerful, because the crown goes to the most powerful.
Yep.
But then I think back to Teller. So this is my thoughts too. Mom's also Teller's mom. Arlie is also Teller's mom. And he's not taking any flame root powder. So maybe my theory on that's debunked a little bit, that she maybe is not descended, because if she was, Teller's 17, he would have also had the signs by now and been taking it. And we also,
That,
because we know that the
yeah.
commander is Teller's dad. So
Yeah.
he's human. So
Yep.
for him to have the descended blood, he would eventually have signs also. So maybe not on that. That would maybe not be a theory, but just I thought about that's been debunked. So then Luther says, when Luther says to Diem, when he finds her in the passageway, don't make me lose trust in you like I did your mother. That also makes me wonder, was he the one to take her to the island? If he was, why? If he didn't trust her anymore? I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. If their trust was broken, why would he take her there unless it was a punishment?
maybe.
Yeah.
But it seems like it was kind of planned. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so then jumping theories here. So obviously Sora can speak to Diem. I think that she can speak to Diem because she always says whenever she is in her presence that she can feel like a connection between them.
Yeah. And she wants to touch her and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly like I'm just more curious to hear your thoughts because I'm at this point where I'm like, there's so many possible ways that this could go. I don't even know where my thoughts are at with it all.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So obviously I think Luther and Diem are gonna end up together. We've kind of established that. They are going to end up together. I think they're fated mates. I also think that he can mind speak to her, or at
Okay.
least feel her thoughts and know what she's thinking. Diem is obviously descended.
Okay.
And my called it moment, like we talked about, is I totally called that she was going to be chosen as the next ruler, which I was like,
Oh,
again,
yeah.
how did I get that right? Because I don't ever get these things right.
I
So,
know. And yeah. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I was shocked that you called that.
oh
I was
yeah,
like, whoa, that was out there too.
totally.
Like,
Super proud of myself. I don't know if it's gonna happen again. This is a one-time thing.
I kind
But
of thought like, oh, maybe she'll defeat some other bad king or something, or like the king will die eventually after she's had some character growth and development, I guess.
yeah.
I didn't realize it was gonna be like, hey, bang, here's a crown for you.
Tag, you're it. Yeah,
Tag your
totally.
yeah.
So I only gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars
Okay.
because for me personally, there wasn't enough magic and there wasn't enough romance. But I know it's coming,
Yeah.
but that's why I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
Spice level, I would say probably half a chili because it was very
Yeah.
closed door,
Yeah. There was just
suggestive,
like
but
a little bit in the
yeah,
front, but that's about it.
yeah, not quite enough. Um, yeah, overall, I liked it. I'm excited to see where the rest of the series goes. I guess we'll put it at that for me. And I'll just probably just piggyback off of Leslie's theories. So we'll let Leslie go next and see what she has to say. What do you think,
All
Leslie?
right. I mean, if you're coming, grab a shovel.
All
Okay.
right, here we go.
We have work to do. Okay, so first off, I'm making this completely clear. I did like this book, okay? But it was definitely a 3 star for me until let's say the last 5 chapters. I guess it's the beginning of a fantasy series, so it's going to be slow in the first book, but this one took me nearly the whole book to really get into.
Mm.
I really want to see more magic, more of this world, what's kind of going on. My called it moment was definitely absolutely mom is on the Kindred Island. It doesn't say it, but she is. Okay. And
Totally.
I call that super quick. But Diem being born on the Kindred Island is something significant. I just don't know
Mm.
exactly what it means just yet. But
Hmm.
I'm starting to question even more now who her father is and if he could be the one who mom ended, and that could be the person that is in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or not in the temple, in the, I'm gonna call it a dungeon because we don't know what's down there, but it sounds scary and dark.
Yeah.
I also just really wonder if mom is kindred
Oh,
or if dad obviously could have been kindred. Okay. It could be off the wall, but okay, she's been there before,
uh-huh.
but the way it said it's multiple times is how I picked it up. That she'd been there multiple
Okay.
times. Okay. And if we're talking years and years and years in between each time, and she says she doesn't know when she's going to get them back there. What did we say? I might have to go back and look here just a second. So back in the epilogue, it says it had taken her 20 years to find a way back into this place. When would the next opportunity arise for them? What if the kindred are coming back? What if like somehow, because I'm not convinced that all the kindred are gone. I'm not.
No, I
Um,
agree with you on that.
I don't know. I just think Mama's kindred could be off the wall. DM was born there. Oh, and then the strange female voice that came out of the king while he was dying.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
What if mom killed the king to put DM in power, but she could only know D would get the crown if she was the most powerful and she was like at least half kindred? She would be
Hmm.
the most powerful in the realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And she obviously knew what was going on with like the flame leaving the cauldron and the light going into the smoky rock, right?
Yeah, that part I totally skimmed over. But
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So like she knew what was going on. She knew like what that meant, even though we don't really fully know what that means, but she knows what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what if she's freaking kindred? She knows this temple, she knows where she is, but the 10 pointed star, and then she says it feels wrong. So what if she's a kindred that's not supposed to be there anymore? Like, what if she did something that, like,
Hmm.
or whatever? Or what if the dad is kindred or
Oh,
whatever? She's not supposed to be there or whatever.
okay.
There's a lot. Yes, there's so many thoughts and theories here. I'm wondering how much I'm about to cut out here when we're editing, but but those are like all the thoughts and theories and stuff that have all just kind of like come in, and that's kind of how I'm with it here. Okay, so next book, I definitely think we're going back to the brothel. She just got kicked out of the house and is going to need somewhere to hide out. Okay.
Mm.
I don't think she's going to be the kind of person that's like flaunting that she's the queen, right? I think Luther is going to know she's the queen somehow, some way, whatever that magic between them, or just their lovely puppy dog eyes, as you put it. Um, and I think he's going to come try and find her. And then in 30 days, we get to see Mama. She's coming
Yeah.
home. Moving forward in the series, I feel like Commander Dad is going to die at the hand of one of the Guardians when he goes back
Mm.
to working or whatever. Luther is Man Crush Monday all day, every day.
Oh, yes.
Um, and I'm hoping we're getting to see more of the realms and their kings and their queens and just kind of like more of everything. Um, and then definitely the end game fight at the end of the series will be that battle vision coming to life.
Yeah.
And Luther's obviously going to be there, but
All
like I
right.
kind of wondered if her putting her hand over like her chest and him doing that, like is one of them wounded or whatever, and the other one can feel it.
Oh,
Yeah. So that was kind
see,
of where
fated
we're at.
mates.
Yeah, I guess.
See?
So I originally gave the book 3 stars, and like I said, just with the whole, I would say just the epilogue in general, just like knocked it up to 3.5 for me.
Mhm.
And then I also just gave it like a half a chili for this book, so nothing too crazy.
I
So
like I like I like where you're going with all of this.
You like it?
I
Okay, I'm
do
glad.
like it.
Does it
Yep,
make sense? Because I
it
like it's
does.
like rapid fire in my brain that like just keeps going and I can't stop.
See, when that rapid fire starts happening for me, that's where I go, yeah, I'm just gonna stop thinking and read the
I'm
book
just
and
gonna
find out
stop
what
thinking and start
happens.
reading. Yeah. Even though it's basically midnight, I'm probably gonna crack open the next book.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have added Tingle Watch, and we had 14 for the entire book. We had
Okay.
tingles or tingly sensations. My pet peeve is the jaw ticking, and 13 in this section, which leads to a total of 18 in the book.
And then I have the growling count.
Uh-huh.
So there was 8 in this section, which makes a total of 12, which I don't think,
Ooh.
because we haven't really gotten to any very intimate scenes yet, none of it's been growling in an intimate way. It's just mostly been that
So
voice
it's not,
inside of her,
it's
I think. But yeah.
no, all the 8 in this section were all, a lot of them were her, some of them were him.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And then we have our cry counter. So for me, 0 for this book.
Yep. I'm still at a 0.
Yep.
Alrighty then.
So next up, we will be reading book 2 in the Kindred Curse series, which is Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole. And we're going to do chapters 1 through 15.
So make sure you finish those chapters before coming back for the next episode in this series. Until then, fill your drinks with ice.
And your books with spice.
My husband thinks this is so stupid now, but I want to make sure it's in every single one. So we're going to.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.